move to the superintendent's report with Dr. Ficara.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you to the student reps. I have three items tonight, brief, just a recap or an overview of our plan to return to in-person instruction in September. We'll also be honoring the retiring teachers, and we're going to do a brief recap of district goals. So it probably would be best to start with the honoring of the retiring teachers, and I'm going to throw that over to Dan Fonder.
That's great. Yes, I'm excited to be able to do this. We're going to have a PowerPoint presentation. It's not the same as being able to have the guests in person, but I'm excited to be able to recognize them. And I know a lot of the retiring or recently retired teachers are with us tonight in the board meeting. So congratulations to all of you. So this is the Bridgewater Raritan recognition for retiring staff members. This is staff members who've retired in the last calendar year. So some of the people on this list have been retired for maybe almost a year at this point, maybe almost, but not quite. And then some people have announced their retirement but haven't retired yet. So regardless of whether you're somebody who has already been enjoying retirement or is looking forward to it, we wish you the best, and we really thank you for your service to our school district. These individuals are people who have given a large part of their life to the school district and to making students' lives better and to making the community better and to working with their colleagues. So we really appreciate all their time and energy. So now I'm going to get a chance to show you and announce each of the retirees. Allison Elder, Eisenhower Intermediate School, 23 years of service. Carolyn Carmona from the Wade Building and Student Services, Secretary, 19 years of service. Teresa Cavalucci at Bridgewater Raritan High School and the Athletics Department, Secretary, 20 years of service. Hortensia Clancy at Milltown Primary School, Special Education Teacher with 18 years of service. Maura Clancy, Bridgewater Raritan Middle School, School Counselor, 30 years of service. Heather Colbert, Bridgewater Raritan High School, Teacher of Mathematics, 23 years of service. Karen Conway at Bridgewater Raritan Middle School, Special Education Assistant, 25 years of service. Nora Carnaccia, Hillside Intermediate School, Special Education Assistant, 16 years of service. Roy Dragon, Bridgewater Raritan High School, Assistant Principal, 26 years of service. Deborah Erickson, Adamsville Primary School, Elementary School Teacher, 12 years of service. Patricia Erickson, John F. Kennedy School, School Nurse, 23 years of service. Harry Fisher from the Transportation Department, a bus driver, 15 years of service. Catherine Gakos, Wade Administration Building, Purchasing Coordinator, 32 years of service. Walter Gibbons, Bridgewater Raritan High School, Science Teacher, 15 years of service. Laura Grabler from Bridgewater Raritan High School, Special Education Assistant, 21 years of service. Grace Greway, Bridgewater Raritan Middle School, Special Education Teacher, 8 years of service. Mona Hamby, Milltown Primary School, Special Education Teacher, 19 years of service. Celeste Hanson Gibbons, Bridgewater Raritan High School, Special Education Teacher, 13 years of service. Nancy Havrin, Van Holten Primary School, Elementary School Teacher, 25 years of service. Mary Lynn Hawkinson from Bridgewater Raritan High School, an art teacher, 32 years of service. Deborah Henderson, Bridgewater Raritan Middle School, an elementary school teacher, 11 years of service. Patricia Imbriani from Bridgewater Raritan High School in the Guidance Department, Secretary, 12 years of service. Linda Krajewski, Bridgewater Raritan High School, Family and Consumer Science Teacher, 16 years of service. Ruth Ann Lowell, Bridgewater Raritan Middle School, Student Assistant Counselor, 28 years of service. Joanne Morella, Bridgewater Raritan High School, Special Education Assistant, 15 years of service. Kirsty Naffey, Adamsville Primary School and Elementary School teacher, 17 years of service. Karen O'Neill from Crim Primary School and Elementary School teacher, 23 years of service. Judith Raphael from Bridgewater Raritan High School, Family and Consumer Science teacher, 20 years of service. Kimberly Richards from Bridgewater Raritan Middle School, a special education teacher, 21 years of service. Carolyn Richardson from Van Holten Primary School, an elementary school teacher, 17 years of service. Mary Ellen Rickards from Milltown Primary School, a special education assistant with 18 years of service. Sherry Rinaldi, Bridgewater Raritan Middle School, special education teacher, 22 years of service. Timothy Robbins from Bridgewater Raritan High School, teacher of mathematics, 39 years of service. Susan Roxbury from Hamilton Primary School, elementary school teacher, 24 years of service. Edward Schmecker from the Wade Administration Building, computer technician, 15 years of service. Yuta Sealer from Adamsville Primary School, teacher of technology, 23 years of service. Jody Siegel from Bridgewater Raritan High School, world language teacher, 20 years of service. Marcy Citron from Hillside Intermediate School, special education teacher, 13 years of service. Douglas Smith from the Transportation Department, bus driver, 10 years of service. Beth Ann Stauffer from Adamsville Primary School, an elementary school teacher, 14 years of service. Barbara Triasi from Bridgewater Raritan Middle School, a special education assistant with 15 years of service. Wendy Turter, Bridgewater Raritan High School, Family and Consumer Science teacher, 13 years of service. Margaret Wilson from Eisenhower Intermediate School, secretary, 24 years of service. Patricia Zielinski from Bridgewater Raritan High School, a secretary, 18 years of service. Congratulations again to all of our retirees. We wish you all the best. And again, we thank you for your service to the Bridgewater Raritan School District and our students and our school community. We wish you all the best in retirement and really appreciate all of those years. I was thinking I could add all of them up at some point, but then I said, well, it's too many. It's so many years of service. And whether it was closer to 10 or closer to 40, we really appreciate all of the time and energy that you put into educating our students and making our district the great district that it is.
Thank you, Dan, and congratulations to the retiring teachers and support staff members. Next week, I just want to briefly go over our return to school plan. It consists of three categories: maintaining health and safety, ensuring continuity of services, and public input through a survey. Under maintaining health and safety, there were 8 categories that the state required us to speak to. It was universal and correct mask wearing, physical distancing, hand washing, cleaning and maintaining health facilities, contact tracing, diagnostic and screening testing, efforts to provide vaccinations if eligible, and appropriate accommodations for children with disabilities with respect to health and safety. Now, it's important for me to point out that the state has not released any guidance yet, and we've been advised, we anticipate that guidance being released sometime before the end of the month, but we have to submit this plan at the moment. And so we've been advised through the county office that we should refer to following the New Jersey Department of Health guidance. So on each one of the areas, for example, under ensuring continuity of services, the staff has been developing summer plans for learning programs, supplemental before school and after school programs, targeted tutoring and accelerated learning, math and science, and in other content areas. And in each of the health areas having to do with any of these plans, we will continue to follow the New Jersey State Department of Health guidance. We also will be providing for, we're planning for mental health services, social emotional learning, providing additional universal support to all students at the school level, and adding additional mental health professionals at each building. And that includes training of social worker interns. We're anticipating approximately 11 or more of those. And there will be staff development on balancing emotional and health needs that teachers and students will be focusing, many of whom returning for the first time in 18 months. We'll also be focusing on providing nutritious meals served in accordance with the food service guidelines. In terms of input, the district has surveyed parents and staff as to what they feel are the most important needs. The survey and the plans have been aligned, and going forward, there will be a committee established consisting of staff members, parents, guardians, and community members to finalize the planning, particularly around budgeting purposes. And again, we'll be looking at trying to meet community needs and hopefully based on some new guidelines that we will be getting probably before the end of the month, which is when it came out last year, specifying the state guidelines for opening school in September. And I'd like to then move on to our goals and objectives, our goals recap by Karen Jones.
Paul, you there? Waiting for the, all right, here we go. Oh, wrong one. Oh, almost. So while he's pulling it up, I would like to also say that the student reps were great this year. And well, they're great every year, but you were great this year. And also I want to congratulate those people who are retiring. All right, so we're going to do a quick district goals recap because we did a long one at the end of March. So Paul, if you could just go to the first slide. And if you could just click on any one of those links. I just want you to see that, you know, we have a whole action plan and these will be on the website next week. But that will go through the entire year, which we already did. So if we go on to District Goal 1, which is the next slide, we could go to the next slide. So the first thing we were doing was building capacity for the delivery of instruction in a virtual hybrid classroom. And so we almost survived that. And now that we're at the end of the year, this is kind of where we ended up. We surveyed staff to reevaluate district and content-specific technology resources. We worked actually with technology to ensure that students have access to devices and online resources throughout the summer, which they will probably need because we created a summer learning platform that's already on the website. And then a creation of a summer learning program for some kids who we targeted for remediation. And that's starting in July. Going into September, we've identified priority standards. We are looking at pacing and assessments for next year, specifically in the review of the first marking period, looking at content that we may need to circle back to or standards that we have to prioritize. We need to look at our pacing again, especially in the first marking period. And then finally, as you all know, we implemented a multi-tiered system of support this year for intervention. And we will take some time over the summer to look at it again and think about kind of what our processes were and the assessments that we're going to use to identify kids who might need additional support. So our district goal 1 kind of morphed from being about how do we support people in this virtual hybrid setting to now that we're going to be transitioning back into a traditional day, what things do we have to do kind of as the result of the fact that we were in this virtual hybrid setting through the year? And that's really kind of looking again at our content and how we're starting the year. It's making sure that we know where students are as far as their readiness, and then it's planning programs both in the summer and, as Dr. Ficarra just mentioned, throughout the school year to remediate and support kids in an ongoing way. And then what will happen is tomorrow we'll probably send out information also so that we'll be able to tell you exactly where you can find links to the summer learning platform, which is asynchronous. Anybody can access it at any time, and it should be right kind of in the alerts. But we also have it linked under the virtual tab on our website right now, if anybody's interested in looking at it. And then we're purchasing technology for next year, platforms again, but we scaled it back and we're only using things that we think will continue to support people when we're back in a traditional classroom. And some of the things we had this year, like virtual labs, we're eliminating for next year because we're planning to go back to real-time labs. So that's where we are with building capacity for the delivery of instruction. Now we're building capacity to return to instruction. So district goal 2, if you can go to the next slide, was really to provide social emotional supports for students, but it's also kind of to grow our SEL program for students. So the last time we talked, we kind of went through where we were at that point, and where we ended up at the end of the year was, as Dr. Ficarra just mentioned, we hired a mental health consultant. And so what we're implementing is a social worker intern program, which is both at the middle school and high school, and it's in partnership with colleges and universities. And at this point, we have 11 social worker interns who will be supporting our counseling staff, both at the middle school and high school. And what that will give us an ability to do is to really just have an army of people supporting us and to be able to support more students, which might be even more essential as we go back into a traditional year for those students who struggle this year and for those students who were out and were virtual all year and have to readjust. We did our first parent workshop, which was parenting during a pandemic a year later, and we had about 300 people replied, RSVP'd, and 70 parents attended, so we're growing that program. Our mental health consultant actually and I met with a group of parents, and she's now going to continue to meet with a group of parents who will be advising us on future sessions. So this is going to be a parent workshop series that we'll be sending out, and we are already starting our plans for the next one, which is in August. And that one, we don't have a good title for it yet, but the content of it is basically helping kids, supporting them as they transition back into, this traditional classroom, what you could do as a parent to support them. So we will have information coming out about that. We also, through the school counseling office, created a monthly counseling newsletter. So we're 3 months. This is our 3rd month into that. And what it is, and it's online too, and you can see this under news, but also if you go to the curriculum tab and you go to the school counseling tab, you'll see that they give you an update on every school and character ed and kind of what the SEL focus is in the school. They give parents strategies and resources that you can use at home, places that you can reach out to if you have concerns and you need additional support. I highly recommend going on the website and looking at the June version because it also provides links and ideas for summer activities. So things that you can do with your children to spend time with them, to support their mental health. There were many resources on it. So, and that will continue into next year. We did ongoing resources, professional development, supports for district faculty and staff. We are continuing work with our action team subcommittees. The action team subcommittee created a basic training for the entire staff that was sent out, and the entire staff was, trained in kind of the basics of SEL so that we kind of have a foundational start for our staff. And finally, we are having a summer book club, which is called Start with the Heart, Igniting Hope in Schools Through Social Emotional Learning. And our entire SEL committee has the book, so they'll be working on it. And we bought the entire administrative staff, and we also purchased them all for board members. So the academic committee requested, and we purchased them instead for the whole board. So you can all read along with us on our book club. So that was District Goal 2, and our last goal is District Goal 3. And so this one was to build a district-wide culture. And really, I guess we're building capacity for this. Build a district-wide culture that's acceptive and appreciative of diversity, promotes equitable opportunities, reduces bias, and supports an inclusive environment. So the first thing that we had to do with the committee, they formed an administrative committee, which we will be growing outward. And they established common understanding of some of the key words: inclusivity, diversity, bias, equity. They analyzed data from the district-wide survey that went out. They reviewed and then they prepared a May-June newsletter that went out to staff on our goals. Ongoing, as a part of kind of recommendations that were made last year through program evaluations in English language arts and also in performing arts, we've been looking at, in English language arts, recommending texts and novels that we could include to support our curriculum that are more diverse, that include more diverse representation. So at the high school level, this involved reaching out to students, asking students to read along with us. In some cases, students were also asked if they had other titles they might want to contribute. At the K-4 level, we are creating author studies for both fiction and nonfiction texts, and those author studies are also representative of diverse backgrounds. And so that's one thing that we've looked at this year. One thing that came up at a former board meeting that we pulled into this goal 3 is to look at the dress code. And actually, I believe emails went out yesterday and today at the high school and middle school, inviting both students, and we'll be inviting parents to be part of groups that will meet twice throughout the summer to have discussions about dress code so that we can make some decisions about revisiting that policy. And finally, there's also a book club for District Goal 3, which is being read by the committee. We will be giving the book to administrators, and we will also be giving those books to board members so you can read along with us. And I believe that's it for the district goals.